I will start with the tutorial. So once again, this tutorial is about the Placplac platform, which is a new format for the research dissemination, created and designed on purpose for disseminating what is the research done using digital methods, such as the one that you will follow up during this smart sprint. So for having access to the folder and the material that I will share with you today, please get into this link, bit.ly/Placplac Smart 2022. Elena Aversa, who is also following with me this tutorial, will share all the links on the chat. So also, if you can give me some feedback if you are able to get into the Drive folder. Just for showing you, on the Drive folder, you will find out many different materials, such as this presentation. Also, you will have access to a report format, which we will use for this tutorial, and also 3 folders of material that will be very helpful for using the tool that we will present. So first of all, I want to introduce the fact that this project is part of a broader project called AlgoCount, which was sponsored by the Kariplov Foundation, and it was bring by the group of politics science at Università di Milano, and also density design from Politecnico di Milano. So this project, again, is a part of a broader one that is being studying the public perception of algorithms in society. So Placplac is one part of this project, and the purpose of Placplac tool is related to provide a new way of making scientific dissemination of how we can account on algorithms, but not only. Also, just for telling you more about this project started has a starting point that was the data sprint that we conduct on January 2021, in which with the researchers of Università di Milano, we go through studying how different algorithms were acting, let's say, through different platforms of study, such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, and so on. From this data sprint, we realized that the platform, the dissemination platform that we are providing, that we will show you today, it's focusing on how we can tell on the process of doing research using digital methods. So in this data sprint, the main focus was to study how different algorithms were performing misinformation practices on these different platforms, with a very specific topic of infodemics. But despite the topic and despite the way we conduct this research, what we come through is about this platform that visually is putting a lot of focus on telling the process of how we do research using digital methods. It's a digital and web-based format, and it's very visually driven. So this is something that we want to highlight. The platform, and more than the platform, the format in how we can tell about the process is very visually driven. So this is just to enhance the fact that through this format, we can use interactivity, we can use links and hyperlinks for providing all of the different specifics of our research. Also, something that I want to highlight from the beginning is that there's also a way of connecting how different experiments are looking forward a same topic. In this case of the data sprint, we were looking into the infodemics from different platforms and from different triggers. But we came through also with a glossary section that allows us to connect some concepts that were key concepts through the word trespassing all of the different experiments. So concepts that we will take a look further later. So also I want to highlight the fact that this dissemination format that we are presenting today is in a beta version. So we are still looking for bugs, we are still looking for improvements. And this is also why we are very happy that you are following this tutorial, because we want to invite you to use the format, to take a look and tell us later how does it work or what type of things were not working so well. So let's start just telling you how information is being structured in this dissemination format. The format has three main sections, let's say. One, it's related to the project. So the project will be like the umbrella project that will embrace more than one experiment. So for example, we can think that the Smart Data Sprint is actually a project, because within the Smart Data Sprint, each group of researchers will perform or will develop a very specific research that we will call an experiment. So the experiment usually follows one main research question. So for this tutorial, we will use an experiment that is called "Why I'm Seeing This Infodemic on My Facebook Newsfeed." So again, the project can embrace more than one experiment. You can put inside as many experiments as you want, but always under the umbrella of the project. And finally, there's another section, which is the glossary, that collects the key concepts that are used through the different experiments. So for example, concepts could be very common concepts, such as the different tools that we use for doing digital methods. It could be the tweetcat, it could be tools for visualization, such as Pixplot or so on. So the idea is to hold on a list of these concepts that could be useful for knowing more or link it to more information on how we can learn to use them. Also, well, before going forward, if you have any question, please, you can write it on the chat. Elena is there following the questions. And also, if there's something that is completely not clear, please raise your hand, and I'm very happy to stop this tutorial and make it clear. So let's go and see each of these sections that I already present. The first one is related to the project, and the project is about providing the context on where all these experiments are. So the project, again, will be mostly visualized in the homepage of the project, where we can see that we can provide a title with a description. Also, we can introduce in an overall way all the different experiments that are inside this package of content. And also we can include information about the context of the project and the references. Also, from the homepage, it's possible to access directly to the glossary or to each experiment. The second section that is quite important here, and I believe that is the one that you are much more interested, is related to experiments. Again, let's think that all of the different experiments that you will conduct during the Smart Data Sprint are inside the project called Smart Sprint. So each experiment, again, it will be related to your research question during this week. It's organized in different subsections. So this is how we are taking a concept that is very well known, which are the building blocks. Imagine you are playing Legos or other sorts of gameful objects that are modeled. So the thing here is that we can use these different modules of information for putting inside the content related to the specificities of our research. So that's why each experiment is presented with this structure: the experiment presentation, the context, a research question, the experiment setup, the different experiment steps, then the description of the step-by-step process, the findings, and again, references. And this is visualized in an interface that is like in the way I'm showing you in this slide, in which each part of type of content related to describing the experiment will have a different layout. Finally, the third section that I present you is the glossary. The glossary, again, collects all the different key concepts that are used through the project. The interesting thing about the Placplac format is that you can define which are the categories, and you can define as well which are the concepts that are within each category. So again, because we are building and we are designing this dissemination format based on our own experience as designers that we are working with digital methods from long ago, we suggest you, for example, to work with a category called tools, where we can collect all the different tools that are used within the digital methods research, and also techniques, for example. So techniques such as snowballing or screen recording or scraping are very specific actions that are much related to what is the digital methods research. So from the glossary, it's possible to explore each category, looking into the very specific definition of what are tools intended in this project. And we can also jump directly to each concept. So we can see much more information related to it, such as a brief description. We can provide extra links, or we can also connect where those concepts are applied through the experiments. The glossary has a second feature, let's say, is that it is accessible through the platform, through the format, sorry, by clicking over the concepts. The concepts you will see that turn like peels, colorful peels. Each color is related to each category that you can define. And you can jump into those concepts from any part of the format through the way of a side panel window that can give you a summary of the concept. You can also go further into the glossary section for reading more information about it. So this was the very first explanation of the different sections that we have and that we can customize with our research. And now we are going to start the hands-on tutorial. Until here, any question, any comment? No, it's everything clear? Okay, let's go ahead. So in this tutorial, you will see two types of slides. The ones that are white color are related to the very specific explanation of the different sections of the platform. And the yellow ones are related to general functionalities of the platform. So first of all, and this is where I will start, I will leave these slides, but you will see that in these slides, we have all the step-by-step process, and now I will show you alive. Before leaving these slides, I want to suggest you strongly that before using this dissemination format, is a very good practice to use, first of all, a sort of word template. This word template, what we have done here, is to provide you all the different fields that you will need for filling up the format. This is to say, you need a title, you need a brief description, you need pictures, you need videos and material. A very good practice is to first collect all those information, and once you have it, you start filling up the format. So for the sake of this tutorial, we already fill a report with a different content, but also we provide you an empty format, so you can go on during the smart sprint, filling with your own research. So here is where I'm leaving the slides. I will put it like this. I will put it like this. Okay. So the first thing that we will do is to jump into the placplac.densitydesign.org, which is the way of accessing to the format. So you will listen to me talking about the format, but what we have done is more or less, and in simple words, is like a WordPress for the digital methods. It's a content manager system that allows you to integrate different material with a very specific format for visually explaining the process of how you are getting into your findings and you are following your research. So again, the first thing to do is to jump into placplac.densitydesign.org. And of course, because you have now any account, you have to register. So clicking on the register form, you have to fill with your name, your email, you can create a password, and then sign up. And this is the part where, since I already have an account, I will jump in. So you have to wait some minutes for checking your account. But once you wait a little bit, you already will have, you can jump again to the login, put your credentials, and then you will see something like what you can see on my screen, which is the projects list of, again, the different projects that are already being created. So if you jump for the first time, sorry, I will put it here once. If you jump for first time and there are no projects created, you will see something like this. We are still on the beta version, so we are still making some graphic fine-tuning things, so this type of icons will disappear. But the thing is that once you have an account and you are inside, you can create a project, and this is exactly what we will do now. Jumping on here, I can create a project, just clicking on the plus create. And once I create a project, I can start already filling the different fields for telling about my project. So inside the Drive folder, you will see that we provide you a report that is already filled with the name of the project, the different, that is the brief description, the about section, and so on. So what we have to do here is just to start putting our content. You will see that in the interface, there's a small description about the suggested amount of characters. And this is something that, again, we strongly suggest you to follow, since many times, and this is something we know by heart, many times researchers are filling with very long names, with very long descriptions. The idea of this platform is to publicly disseminate our research to a public that maybe is wider than only research or academic communities. So again, the idea is to, from the researcher part, to make an effort for being brief, briefly describing or briefly explaining what we have done. The platform is still designed and built in a way that it has a lot of flexibility on the type of content that could be inside. But again, the idea is to follow the suggestions about the amount of characters in order to bring a format that is friendly and is not full of content everywhere. So again, since I am creating the project, I have to fill with a very basic information about it, like the title, the description, and also about the project. I'm just copying here a few lines of text, but you should know that here you can go as longer as you want. Also, this part is very nice to see, since it's a text editor, which is very well known, I believe, from many of you. It's a text editor like the one you can find on Word and so on. So that means that you can add links, you can make your own typographic variations using italics or colors and so on. So once I am creating the very summary part of my project, I will put save. And once I save the summary part of that project, I also have other new tabs that are here, such as experiment, glossary, references, footer, and media library. So something that I will repeat constantly during this tutorial, but sorry if I am very boring about this, but every time you see a button about save, you should save. This is very important because since this content manager system is building blocks, many times we believe that we create the blog, but we didn't save it. So that means that if we don't save it, you can't go further building the next blog. So it's very important to always have in mind to save. So again, okay, now we have the summary, and you will see that in the top part at the right side, there's a small way of making the preview. I will open the preview on another tab, just for showing you that on real time, we can see how the content that I am filling up is being displayed. So until here, you will see that I have a title, I have the brief description, the about part with a bold announcement of the word, and also I have a empty list of references. In the top part of the format, we can see that we have these 4 buttons related to home, experiments, about, and glossary. If we click over experiments, it's empty, so we can't see anything. About the about, it will jump with an anchor point directly to the about section. To the glossary, we will jump into the glossary section, which is still empty. And we can go back to the home in every part of the navigation through the format. So let's go back to the content manager of Placplac. So after I already have my project, like the umbrella project that will embrace different experiments, we can go to the next steps. Before filling up an experiment, I want to show you other very formal and important parts, such as the footer. So the footer that is in here, wait me a second. The footer, this is something very sensible that we realize that is extremely important to also customize, because today we are using Placplac within the smart at Lisbon winter school, but maybe tomorrow you want to use this platform with under other type of institutions. So the thing is that we can also customize the footer. In the footer, you can only edit 2 aspects related to who founded the project, the partners, and also the social media contacts such as Facebook, Twitter, and email. So for instance, if I want to include a partner such as Density Design, I am able to do this by putting a link and also by providing an image. So here I can upload my image. Give me a second. Design, projects, smart, Placplac tutorial. So you will see that inside the Drive folder, where I share with you some material, I used to have a logo that I didn't put inside. How this is possible? Okay. Since I don't have any specific logo here, I thought that I put it on. Sorry for that. I will just put another image just randomly to see what's happening here. So when I am adding the image, this is the first time I'm including an image for inside the library of multimedia and images that I would use through the project. So since it's the first time, it's asking me if I want to include a description. And I then will put save. And when the image is saved, yeah, you will see that then it's uploaded on the media. I will select it, and that's it. I will put save, and then refreshing the front end, you will see that the image that I insert in here, it's already being displayed under the partners list of logos that you can put. And this image is again linked to the density design. It should work like that. So the footer, again, 2 main things to say. You can add as many partners as you want. it's not a good practice to fill with 25 logos, but that it's related to the project structure, so we can't say anything about that. We know that many times we are working with other 12 partners and that's it. But the thing is that you should keep in mind not using very large images. And also, since the footer is black color, a good practice is to use PNG images that are already white color. But again, this is up to you, and you can include the images that you want. So, well, this is the part related to the footer. Now let's jump into the references. So references are very important when we are doing research. And something that is very important here is that we are talking about references of the project. So let's imagine, I will take it as an example. Let's imagine that Jana is building a project about the Smart at Lisbona, and she has a long list of references that are very specifically about organizing a data sprint. But maybe those references are not that much interesting for each experiment. So what I want to highlight here is that all the references that we can include under the project umbrella are references of the project. And this is not, they are independent to the different references that you can include in experiments. So when we go to the tab of reference, just click on add reference, and here you can copy paste. I will copy from the report a reference of a very nice article. I will paste it here. Again, such as a text editor, you can put bolds and italics and so on. You can also activate the links by clicking here. I'm just activating the URL of this DOI. I will put that I want to open it in a new window, for example. This is a good practice. And I will put save. So this is how it's preview. Again, let's click save. And after that, this is how in the manager system looks like. You can also and always come back to edit or delete the reference, and you can also continue adding as many references you wish. So also a good suggestion here is that since we designed this instrument, this tool, in a way that is very flexible, we didn't impose any way of scientifically making the referencing, the references. So it's up to you to coordinate that all the references are in an APA system or other scientific way of organizing references, and so on. So until here, we have already 3 references in my list of reference at the project. And then let's jump into the glossary tab. Until here, any question? Elena, you can interrupt me whenever you think, because I can see your faces from here, but okay, let's go ahead. So let's jump into the glossary. The glossary section, again, is the part in which we can build the structure of how we are organizing the key concepts of the project. So again, this is the part where I imagine Jana. Jana, sorry if I used you as an example, but I believe it's a good way of putting on practice how this works. Let's imagine that Jana is creating a glossary where, as a project, we are collecting all the key concepts related to this very specific smart sprint at Lisbon. So we can say, we can include a short description here. This is a glossary. So maybe I already have it here. Let me see. See, I have it here. I already create a brief description of the glossary. Again, you can go as long as you want, but we strongly suggest you to keep it briefly, such as 200 or 300 characters, but still you can write whatever and how long you want. So we can add a description for the glossary. Then we can see that we have a part where we can define the categories of this glossary. Let's say the different shelves where we will put the different concepts. So as a default, we have two two categories, which are tools and techniques, but you can edit them. You can change the name of tools, and it's called strumenti, I don't know. And you can also change the color of all the concepts that we will be within the strumenti category can have a different color. By default, you will find it here in black color. And you can also change the description. I will just keep this one and I will put save. And at the same time, I can add other glossary categories. For example, here, I will create a new category. No, sorry, no, it wasn't here. Here, in this bottom, add glossary category. In this pop-up, they are asking me for the title of this category that I will call lexicon. So here I am interested on collecting all of those research words that are related to my research. I will change the color since I don't want to have twice the same color. And I will include a description. Nice concepts for Lisbon. And then I will put save. So in this way, it should appear here. I don't know why. Here it is. So we can see now that in our list of categories, we have the lexicon, and we can always come back and edit or delete it. I will put save because who knows what could happen in the next moment. So now I can also add the concepts that I will use during this tutorial. So for example, because Jana already have a good idea of all the different experiments that we're running during this week, she already have a list of these concepts. So for example, a concept could be an instrument called Apify, which I believe many of you already know. And if you don't know Apify, this is a good tool for knowing more about it. So for each concept, there's needed a category, a title, and a short description that you can edit the way you want. After putting save, we will see that now we can add more information and more material related to this concept, which is Apify. So for instance, I can include other material. Including other material, it means that we can include other links that are outside our platform. So for example, I can include the link for the apify.com, which I will put as a title and also as an URL. I can also include related terms. Related terms is the way in which we can connect the words that are within the glossary. In this case, we can't relate this word with any other word because we don't have a list of other glossary terms to be connected or to be related. But once you have like 20 or 3 or even 2 concepts within the glossary, you can see if they connect or not. So for example, in your glossary, you could have a concept such as network analysis, that it could be a technique. And also you can have another concept such as Gephi, which is a very useful tool, and you can connect them here. So in this way, the glossary is not only intended to collect definitions and descriptions, but also to connect them. And finally, you can also include an image. And what I'm going to do here is to, let's see if I already see, I think I have it. I will upload an Apify image that I have here. So again, you can upload images from your computer, or you can also copy and paste URLs with the URL address of the image. So once I call my image, I put it save. Now I can see that it's available on the media library, and then I will put save. So now, again, I will put save because just click save everywhere you take a look at it. And now let's see how this looks in my glossary. Okay, so my glossary, which I don't know why I can't see the description, but you should be here. we will see that we have the category called strumenti that is visible because it's the only category that has any concept within. And we can click over Apify, and I can see the description, the other material links, and also the image that I provide for explaining what is Apify. Until here, any question? No? Okay, so now we are going to jump into the most interesting, I don't know if the most interesting, but one of the most intensive parts of the format, which is telling about our experiments. So when starting to feel about experiments, we will click on the tab, experiment tab, and we will see that first of all, there's an overall description of all the experiments that we are filling in the platform. So in this case, again, I will use Jana as an example. I believe that before jumping into each experiment, these overall words are trying to provide a direction or providing a sort of way of looking into these experiments. So this is the part where Jana is still filling up general information of all the experiments. So I have here my placeholder text that is about the type of experiments that we follow up during the data sprint within the AlgoCount project in January last year, and I will put save. Once I already include my brief description of the overall experiments, now I can start adding new experiments. So you can see that here there's a button called Add Experiment. And when I click it, I can see a pop-up that is already, it's already asking me to fill up the title of the experiment. In my case, and following the report, you will see that there's a part in the report where everything is blue color. And this is the part where I will start filling up or using the content related to the experiment. So that my title is, the title of my project is actually why I'm seeing this infodemic in my Facebook newsfeed. I can put it here, newsfeed here, and I will put save. And once I save my title experiment, now I can continue filling up other parts of it. So here we can see something that is very interesting, that when we design this platform, we realized that since we are using building blocks and we are like working with a matryoshka, we are putting a box into a box into a box, maybe you can feel a little bit lost and don't know where we are, in which part of the content construction we are. So that's why you will see that the header of this interface, we have a breadcrumb that, well, we are still working on this visually, but it's a clickable breadcrumb. So if you go with the mouse over the title, you can see that you can jump directly to the AlgoCount project, or you can jump directly to all the information related to this very specific experiment. You will see as well that the breadcrumb is already telling you in which section of the content we are working. In this case, we are working on the experiment section. But what about if I want to go back to the project? I can just click over the AlgoCount project, and then I will see again all of the content that we already filled up with the summary, the list of experiments, the glossary, the references, and so on. And you will see that the breadcrumb is telling you we are in the project section of the AlgoCount project. And if we want to continue editing our experiment, we have to go to the experiment tab and then see through the list of experiments that will appear here. Since we are working on this one, why am I seeing this infodemic on my Facebook newsfeed? We will click on edit and continue. Okay, until here, any question? No? Okay, andiamo. So My experiment. My experiment is called like this. And of course, this experiment follow a research question that was very clear. And this is also something nice to mention. In this case, the research question is not mandatory to be the same as the title. Of course, you can have one title and you can have another research question. Or if you want, you can use the same research question as a title or not. This is up to you. What I still continue being super repetitive is that through the platform, we continuously suggest you the amount of characters for filling up all of the different things. This is a suggestion, you can take it or not, but this is also because we know that this tool should be very flexible. And we know that when you are doing research, things are not that on the grid. Many times titles are super long and so on. So again, those suggested amount of characters is just a suggestion. So again, let's continue filling up my experiment, the title, I have the research question. There's also a part where they are asking me to fill up with a very short description of my project, of my experiment, sorry. So here, also a good hint for you is try to write very briefly which is the best way of describing your experiment and the main goals or the main, let's say, the main findings. So I put it like here, copy and paste. You can see that I copy also emojis, and I also put bullets for lists. So again, you are free for editing the content in the way you want. And after that, I also, I can include some tags. I will show you. So this is a part that we decided to include because tags could work as keywords. So for example, some keywords of my project are Facebook, of course, because it's the platform that we study. Other one is the newsfeed, since it is the digital object that we studied within the platform. Also, we use a lot of snowballing technique, and we also use the screen recording for again recording our findings, and more than our findings, screen recording was a way of scraping data of how our newsfeed changed through days. After that, the last thing that I can adjust for telling about my project, my experiment, sorry, it's choosing an image for the cover. So I will choose the same one that I already include in my library, and I will put save. After that, there's a message that says that the element is updated. Let's go and see how this looks like. So again, we are in the homepage of the AlgoCount project. And now, you have to refresh sometimes because things are going through a server to another in the other part of the world, so things are not that instant. So we can see now that the homepage is already filled up with the first experiment of the project, which is why I'm seeing this infodemic on my Facebook with a short description, with my image cover, and also with a strip of words that is moving, that are the keywords that I define as tags just for being displayed on the homepage. And from here, we can click on our project, and we can already see that the experiment, it's already filled up with the title, with the definition, the brief definition. Also, you will see that in this first grid, there's an empty space that on the next steps, you will see that it's going to be filled up with all the glossary keywords that we will use through the experiment specifically. And also here we have a table of contents that it works like an index. So step by step, we are filling the different sections of the experiment. We will see that this table of content will be automatically be visualized, and it works as a link, as an anchor as a link for jumping into the different sections of the experiment. We can also see how our research question looks like, and also based on our experience working with digital methods and researchers through this type of projects, we realized that the research question is something that should be very clear since the beginning. That's why we give it a lot of relevance and visual hierarchy. So let's jump to the filling up the next part of the experiment. Until here, any question? No? Okay, so a good, very, very, very good practice that I suggest you, that I strongly suggest you, is that after you work during this sprint and you finish your project and you have a lot of clarity about the process, the findings, and so on, a good practice is to create a list of all of these words that you realize that are relevant, that are part of the glossary, or that you can suggest Jana to include into the glossary. So for example, for this project, we create a list of the main concepts related to tools, techniques, and the lexicon words. So for tools, we use a lot one that is called the fakenamegenerator.com, or OBS for making the screen recording, or Inkscape for editing vectorially our charts created with raw graphs. And the techniques that we mostly used were the screen recording and the snowballing. A super important keyword was the affordances. What I mentioned here is that it's important for you to have this list of concepts on mind, because it's something that we will use by when we are filling up the content of our experiment. So after we finish our summary and we already save it and we saw it, how it's looking at look like, we are going to jump into the next tab, which is the context. So we realized that otherwise the context of the project, otherwise the context of the smart sprint, we have a very specific context of research. So this is to say that when we did this research of why I'm looking this infodemic on my newsfeed on Facebook, we came with a very specific text that is explaining why it's relevant to look at this phenomenon of the newsfeed information provided by the Facebook algorithm. So in the context, we will do essentially this. We will include blocks of information that can tell about the context of the research. In this part, the first thing we can see is that we should define the number of columns on how we want to fill our content. So by default, we have one column, but if you click on the drop down, we will see other possibilities such as 2, 3, 4 columns. Again, here, this is a design suggestion coming from very closely. Keep it simple. When we have several amounts of columns for writing, for putting text, maybe it's a little bit not so efficient, especially when this platform will be displayed on very small screens, computer screens, for example. In this case, I'm doing the tutorial in a very big screen, so things look very big. But keep in mind that maybe for writing long text is a good idea to follow one column or two. I will include one. I will put here on add a row. And then there's a block element that is appearing, in which clicking on the plus, I can decide if I can put a different type of material inside this block. I can put a video, I can put an image, I can put just text, I can include a sort of post-it that we call disclaimer, that are small notes that make the point about if things are important to retrieve before following up the experiment. We have also the experiment setup card. That is a different format that I will show you later. We can embed a block, or we can also embed interactive networks by using a Sigma GEF file. In this case, since my content is much more related to text, I will click over that text editor option. A new pop-up, very similar to any text editor, allows me to copy and paste my content. And here I can also change some format. I can arrange different things, like my grammar that is not so good, and so on. And I will click over save. And again, I will click again, save in this bottom here. And that means that the content is already uploaded. Let's go and see what is happening here. So I will refresh. And now we can see that after that experiment presentation, I have my context, big letters. Then I have my research question. And we can see that the table of contents, the contents is become filled up with the different elements that I am filling up through the manager system. Let's go and now jump into the experiment setup. The experiment setup is the part, again, where as researchers, we are defining which are the different aspects that I, let's say, control for going through my experiment. So that's why in our case, when we did this project at the data sprinting last year, we defined 3 aspects related to how to set up the experiment. One aspect was related to infrastructure. The second aspect was related on how we set up the platform. And the third aspect, which were the behaviors that we conduct once we start studying and observing the platform. So for each aspect, you can also include a sort of brief description and also a list of the actions performed for following that aspect. So just for being much more clear, I will do it with you. We defined 3 aspects, so I will choose a layout of 3 columns. I will add the row, and then I have 3 boxes that I can fill up. So once I click there, I will choose to insert an experiment setup card where the title, infrastructure. This is one of the aspects that we define. This is the description of what we believe, what we intended, what we mean to set up the infrastructure, that is how to set up your device and your browser. And also we provide a list of actions to follow for setting up the infrastructure. And you can add as many as you want. Once you finish, you put save. And this is how in the manager system looks like. So it's a card where you are defining what is the aspect. You are also providing a hint for reading what we understand by making the setup of the infrastructure and the different actions. And I can do the same for the next ones. So I will put here platform, the subtitle, and how I set up the platform during this experiment. We have no of activity. That means that activity, we didn't make any movement. And finally, the setup of the behavior. Experiment card, behavior, and the definition, and also a short, brief description of what we intended here to do as behavior, setting the behavior on Facebook, how we set up our actions on the platform before starting. So we generate a newborn profile activity that doesn't include posting, sharing, commenting, liking, and chatting actions. And then we have our setup. We click on save. Again, there's the message saying that elements are uploaded. So let's go and see how this looks like on my experiment. So now we can see that on the table of contents, there's a new element. There is the experiment setup that looks like this. The interesting thing again is that the setup is not mandatory to be like this. For us, it was really relevant to organize the setup in this way. But what about if in your experiment you don't have any setup? You can skip this tab. Or maybe on your setup is just one long list of things. You can still use the cards with 1 column, or if you are 2 elements, 2, or maximum of 4. Okay, so let's go to the steps. And this is the part that I really like, because the steps that we will start filling up, many times, and this really depends on what you intended by you doing with your research, steps mostly follow one objective, but is performed through different actions. So we thought about this, like, for example, what about creating a new profile on Facebook? Okay, maybe creating a new profile, a newborn profile is very easy, but maybe someone makes a long round for creating a very specific profile. So that means that inside one step, you can have several actions. So let's add a step, which is going, the pop-up is asking us here to include a number. We will put number 1, of course. And my first step, it's called identity creation. Once I put the number and the title, I put save. And also here is available a way, it's available a button for uploading any type of file that you think it's reasonably interesting to follow up this step. This is to say that, for example, we can go further with this experiment and we can have a step number 5, I don't know, in which you say scraping all Twitter data and putting onto a spreadsheet, which will collapse your computer. But if you want to not only tell about your process, but also share that very specific CSV file, you can do it from here, uploading, that CSV file that is connected to this step. So we will put save. And after that, we will jump into the content of this very specific step. And we can also explain, okay, we can start adding the different information. So again, I will just show you very briefly because we are running out of time. We have 15 minutes and I have a couple of things to show you. I will add a new block of content that is created in 2 columns. So I will add a row. This is also something that we realized that is very interesting, that when we are doing, many times we are using digital methods for making a sort of program, an anti-program research about a hashtag or so on. Using 2 columns that are splitted is a good way of comparing. So you can have content in one side and the other that is moving in a way that you are comparing results, like what is happening in one device, following one hashtag and so on. So in this case, I will include an image that is an image that has a description. So my description is that in this step, we use the fake name generator for creating the identity, and I will include an image. And the image that I put here on the Drive folder. And once I save it, again, I click it, and now it's connected to my description. And I can also define if the image is wide or not using this slide bar. And I will put save, and this is how it is starting to look like. And again, here we are going to add another image with another description. That description is related to how the fake name account I create looks like on my Facebook. I will look for the image. Yes. Okay, open. And then save. And when it's uploaded in my library, it should appear here, and put save. That's it. And this is how I'm starting to build these blocks in the different layouts and with a different type of content. I will put save again. And now that the element is updated, we can go and see how this looks like on the platform. So we have the experiment steps, and we can see that the first experiment is related to the account identity creation. And I can see how the image is working within the description. We will see also that in an automatically way, the experiment steps are being created. So every time you are filling up with a new step, this part will automatically be created as a sort of diagram. So if we have 10 different steps, we will have 10 different numbers that you can use also as a link for jumping directly in each of them. Moving to the last part, I just want to say, and I will use this experiment just to show how it works, that that you can also include much more modules, much more boxes under this one. So again, the experiment could be built with many different blocks. So for example, I will include another new block under these ones for showing you how to embed material that isn't interactive. I will include one column row that appears here. And then I will just I will embed a block of something that is on internet. So for example, and just for the sake of this experiment, I will insert, give me a second. I will insert a link to an interactive map that I create using Kepler. Kepler is a fantastic tool that you can use for doing interactive maps. Once that map is uploaded into the web, I can use the URL, paste it here. I can also define how high I want it to appear. Here, I also recommend you strongly to always define the height of your element by the measurements of pixels. So in this case, it's 800 px. You should always put px. And I will put save. Elena is also sharing with you this link in this moment. So once I create this block, I can see on the preview that is looking like that. I will put save. And now let's go and see how it looks on my platform. So just giving them a second. Okay, so this is the part in which interactivity is also working here for presenting what we are doing on our research. In this case, I have to double click the map for the exploration. And once I double click, we have to wait that the map is uploading. We will have all the interactivity possibilities that I have when I'm getting into this link directly on the internet. So this is to say that you can also include other things such as observable nodes, data wrapper, visualizations that are interactive, and so on. Yes. Finally, I promise that I'm finishing. We will jump and finish this experiment. So I will use the breadcrumb for going back. So here I am again on the, why am I seeing this infodemic experiment, where I am in this first step. You can add as many steps you want. Second step. I will not have time right now for finishing this experiment. But what I want to show you is that is how to use the glossary. Very important. So contents. No, summary. Sorry. See? Okay. See. Thank you. Okay. So how does the glossary works? Again, we are on our experiment information, and I, for example, I think that I want to include. I want to include a new box that I will fill with text, just because it's the most simple thing to do. So for example, I will copy a random text. I will paste it here. And if you remember, we include previously on our glossary a keyword that was Apify. What about if in this description of my part of the experiment, I want to include, I want to include the word Apify. What I should do is to go to the editor, start putting hashtag, and once I put the hashtag, I will see with a drop down all of the elements that I previously filled up in the glossary. Since I only put the Apify, this is the only one that I can see. By clicking it, now you can see that the concept looks like a peel, a colorful peel with a color that I find for each category. So then we will save. And once I save it, let's see how this appears. Go into my experiment. I have to refresh again. You will see that the keyword amplified that was included in this part of my experiment looks like a pill. It's also presented in the fixed column that is on the left side with the title and the number of the step. And by clicking it, I can access directly to the sidebar window with a very brief information about this instrument that I can close. And from here, I can also jump in and go directly to the glossary page where I can have much more information and the other links. Okay, finally, let's go to the last part because we are running out of time and I believe you are very hungry. When you finish filling up your steps, you have the last two parts that are related to the findings. Again, findings works very similar to editing text in 1, 2, 3, or 4 columns that you can include. And finally, I will copy it very, very, very fast. Okay, for example, I have a finding. On the findings, again, you can include just text or you can combine columns of text and image and so on. You can embed media and so on. Finally, the references, and this is the part that I just want to use for closing. As I said before, references of each experiment are independent of the references of the project. So if you want to use any new reference or that is not being used previously, you have to create it once again in the experiment section. So for clear doing this, I will copy a very nice article. I just want to show you how does it work, how we can make the reference within the text. So for example, if I want to use this reference that I create on my experiment, I can go into the text, in any text, and just by clicking on the text, add in the add reference button, I will have a pop-up with all the list of references that I have already uploaded in my experiment. Just by choosing it and putting save, you will see the number 1 there, save. And this is to say that when we are looking into our experiment, we will have the reference in here, theory. Yes, it's here. And this is also helpful for jumping directly into the list of reference material that will appear at the end of the page of my experiment. Okay, so I finished showing you the different parts of the project. And the last thing to say is that once you create your project and it's very nice and beautiful, you can go again to the Albucan project main page. And in the summary part, you will see that, again, in the very first part where we start creating our project, we have the possibility of changing language or also, well, adding the very brief description and so on. There's a first field that is called the status. In this case, my project is still in a draft version, but when it's ready, you can publish. And once it's published and it's working, you have to put save. And once it's published and saved, you will see that here we have a new icon on the top part of the right side, that is the download button. The download button, it's supposed to work like this. It's supposed to make you a folder, a builder folder with all the elements and all the structure of your project that you can take, put on your own homepage and use it for that. This is the part where I'm coming back to the slides just for closing. I know that we are running out of time. This is the part to say that since we are working with the beta version, there are some considerations to say. The first of all is that for this smart sprint, you can use the dissemination format, but now it's only possible to be shared with people that is having a Placplac account. Everyone can have a Placplac account, so this is not a problem. But the problem is that right now, the way of downloading the project and using it for your own servers or web pages is not still possible. We are working on this, but it's something that will happen. So this is just for making a disclaimer. So the next step is that you are super invited to use it. We are very curious if this is working or not. we believe it works because we already have tested and so on, but we are very interested in knowing your experience using Placplac. So if you want to use it for disseminating your smart sprint research, let us know. And please count on us for helping you and guiding you if you have anything that you don't remember, or if because I speak too fast, or I don't know. We will be very glad for following a conversation with you. So please write us an email. You have our email at the beginning of this presentation, and also we are on the Slack channel in the design help desk. So yeah, that's this to say thank you very much for your attention, and I don't know if there's questions. Sorry.